Hello, cultists, and welcome back to the Endarken Podcast. This is your host, Shadow Foreman, and I am joined once again by my co-host,
The Apprentice.
And for the second time only on the Endarken Podcast, we are welcoming back the Dark Servant.
Actually, can I get a theme-related nickname this time?
All right. What about Dark Journeyman?
I'll take it.
All right. Sounds good to me. In this episode, we're going to be looking into two Valentine's Day themed horror films, one a remake of the other. Valentine's Day, or as we will affectionately be calling it throughout this podcast episode, VD, centers around love themes. Now, as we've learned from watching these films, VD is not always as good the second time around and often might be a little bit more bloody. If you do like what we do, don't forget to smash that like button like you're driving a pickaxe through a victim's skull. And if you would like to keep us in mind like a bad traumatic flashback, please subscribe. But right now, before we get into it, here's a word from our sponsor, Cogent Coatings.
My first Airbnb. Here you go. Enjoy your weekend and just try not to leave too big a mess.
Yeah.
Oh, nice tiles. Wow. Ow. Ow. That is mildly annoying. Come on, you could do better than that.
See? That's better. Oh my god, I'm happy I could help you improve your craft.
Hey, is everything okay in there? It's 11 o'clock. I kind of need the keys back. I have another guest coming in soon. Alright, look, I don't really mean to barge in on you like this, but I kind of need the Holy Mother of God!
Hello, your local bathtub and tile refinisher.
Yes, hello? Do you have anything that can get rid of deep red stains on my bathtub and tiles?
Have you tried Ajax?
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. It's a little more permanent than that.
You may need to have your bathroom and tile remodeled.
I don't have the money to change my entire bathroom.
We can refinish your bathtub and tiles with Cogent Coating.
Refinishing? You have a product that can refinish the tub and all the tiles?
We use nothing but the best, Cogent Coatings.
Cogent Coatings?
Cogent Coatings will get rid of all those stains and have your bathroom and tile looking like brand new.
Cogent Coatings demand nothing but the best from your bathtub and tile refinishing service. With Cogent Coatings, those psycho stains won't be a problem. And welcome back. So it's about time we get into our movies. Now, the two movies, if you haven't guessed already, are My Bloody Valentine 1981 and My Bloody Valentine 2009. Now, when we were viewing the films and I was showing them to The Apprentice and the Dark Journeyman, as he demanded being called, I chose to show it to them in the reverse chronological order. And there was a reason for this. Normally, you wouldn't do that. You would show the original and then a remake to see how they did it. But given some unique factors about these movies, we kind of did it in reverse order. In fact, I think the differences are made much more stark when you view it in this order.
They're better when you watch them in reverse. The remake is isn't a remake.
It very much is not. We're going to touch upon that much more when we speak about the 1981 film. But for now, let's just say I was asking one question the entire time we were looking at 2009, and that's, where's the VD?
I guess they just didn't want to have VD in the remake. That would be a tragedy.
And no one had VD in that movie. It was very disappointing.
It was very upsetting, the lack of VD. There was some VD at the beginning of the movie, but not really throughout.
Other reasons to show them in reverse order included the fact that, you save the best for last, but I think that's kind of an obvious one, and usually even cases like this you wouldn't do that, but yeah, we decided to, and also you really get to appreciate it more that way. Just overall, you get to appreciate 1981's brilliance, even if some of the tropes and ideas may be a little dated. I do feel it works better that way.
It isn't dated when you're doing them first.
I was speaking about for the times. As in, people today might look at it and say, oh, that's hokey, whatever, but I still love it. I still love it. And yes, you are correct, though. For the time, that movie was amazing. And everything they did worked perfectly, I would say. Now, getting into My Bloody Valentine 2009, we first start out with a super crystal clear timeline of looking at newspapers from 1 year ago and all the tragic events that happened, to cutting to a flashback of that time, to going back to that time, to having a spree of slaughter happen, and then skipping 10 years ahead. I mean, I was confused by it, and I let them get tortured by the same confusion.
Yeah, it was pretty confusing.
I had no idea what year it was. I thought like the 10 years in the past, like it was unnecessary to frame it like that.
It really was unnecessary. I agree. Just to make it clear for the cultists, our viewers, I'll say this. The newspaper clippings basically tell us that after a fight between Harry Warden, who is a miner in the mine, and our main character, Tom Hanniger, the son of the owner of the mine, there is a methane explosion, mine caves in, Harry is trapped underground with several other miners, and all of them die except for Harry. Harry is later found to have killed them. There are pickaxes that went through hard hats and so on. And that's when we cut to Harry in his coma, remembering, flashing back to the fight that he had with Tom. And then we go to Harry waking up, which is still before the 10-year flash forward, and that's kind of where we're going to go to now. I think the movie really shines only in one way over 1981's version, pretty hardcore, and that's, well, the hard gore. So the gore and the brutality, I think, are better in this movie.
Also, unfortunately, we couldn't watch it in 3D. They used a lot of 3D, and it looked like, I could tell there was, oh, that was supposed to be in 3D. That would have looked really cool. But no 3D, because we just gave up on home 3D. Like, you can buy a projector for a few $1,000s, and that's pretty much it for home 3D.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because you see so many kills that they look amazing still, but if you had the 3D, it would, pun intended, really pop.
It's almost like it was called My Bloody Valentine 3D.
Yes, and then they subsequently removed that last part for the sake of showing it on streaming services and having people still watch it. But getting back to the movie, after Harry Warden wakes up and slaughters everyone in the hospital, leaving their hearts and candy boxes, we go to the mine, or at least the entrance of it, because we don't see very much of the mine in this movie either. Won't you be mine? I guess not in this movie. So going to that, Tom is there with his girlfriend at the time, Sarah, and the kids are just partying it up for, I guess, people in their 20s. I mean, they look, as you pointed out, different.
I just assume they're in high school because, it's a horror movie. I assume everyone, unless otherwise specified, is a high school student.
Yeah, and the only clue we get that this is not the case is that flashback from Harry Warden that shows that he was actually working in the mines with Tom Hanniger before that. So we know that before the coma and the wake up, they were working. But they're acting like they're, teenagers.
That might be like early 20s.
Yeah, I would guess something like that.
Also, I just want to point out, like that Harry wakes up from a coma that he's been in for 1 year and has not atrophied to like a skeleton man, and is somehow able to overpower an entire hospital, murder everyone in the hospital. Then I'm assuming like run to this mine and murder another like 30 people.
Hey, it's movie magic, man.
I'm glad you brought that up, because now we get to talk about, again, where this movie shines. We get a couple of super cool kills in the beginning. So when Harry is woken up and he's now slaughtered the hospital, he's apparently in the mine right now where the kids are partying. Kids not kids are partying, sorry. And first time we see any evidence of Harry's presence is when a pickaxe gets slammed through the back of a man's skull, and his eye is in astonishing, eye-popping 2D on the screen that we watched it on, because we do not have a 3D television right now, nor do most people, but it would have looked that much more amazing if we did. The next kill that was amazing, still in this beginning part, is the bisection of a head with a shovel, where Harry takes the shovel, jams it into a girl's jaw, and just hammers it with the pickaxe until it's totally severed off right about here.
I really dig that kill.
Yeah, same here.
Hey, listen. We're trying to put a cap on the puns. We're only leaving them for VD this time.
Make me.
So, yeah. Now we do need to talk about the boring slasher movie plot, so please forgive us momentarily. Tom Hanniger, now after 10 years, because there has been a break that we were notified of on screen, is back in town to sell the mine. His dad owned it, he's a majority shareholder, and he really just wants to get rid of it. So, buried under the surface, I'm sorry, that was another pun, there is this kind of background plot of, small town America kind of losing its charm or being gutted out or just being lost, and the kind of like emasculation themes you normally see in horror are brushed over a little bit.
Is it any media where Dean Winchester has a living dad?
See, if those of you might not know, the Tom Hanniger we're speaking about is actually played by Jensen Ackles, who plays Dean Winchester. Apprentice refuses to refer to him in any other way throughout this podcast episode, and I agree.
That was just Dean Winchester. Like they picked him because he was Dean.
They did. It was during the run of Supernatural, which is, most of my lifetime anyway.
Most of our lifetimes.
That is correct, Shadow Scribe, who is the oldest among us. We didn't give him a name yet. He could be Shadow Office Manager.
Shadow Secretary.
Shadow Secretary. There you go. He's the foreman secretary. So, yeah, sorry. We had to go through the plot so you at least kind of understand this. But being back in town, we learned that that girlfriend, this is part of the plot that we just kind of got out of the way too. Sarah is now dating the town sheriff, Axel. They have different roles, by the way, in the other movie, but we'll get into that later. So, Sarah's dating Axel. Tom is back in town to sell the mine, perhaps because he has no attachments, romantic or otherwise, to the town. And sad and alone, he goes to beat it in a motel room filled with sleaze.
So sad. So sad. So lonely. The loneliest.
But this is one of the best scenes in the movie, if not my favorite, even though I still think the kills in the beginning are a little bit better. I know that you guys really enjoyed this one, so I'm gonna, give it over to you to talk a little bit more about what happens here. It starts with a naked knot hooker in a bed banging a trucker.
I mean, she was paid, so, she was a hooker at that point.
Well, yeah, after you get paid, you're a hooker. That's how it works.
Yeah, so he recorded her without cassette.
Sorry, sex worker.
Unwilling sex worker in this case, which obviously is disgusting. We don't condone any of that nonsense. This guy was recording this woman in the room. He leaves the room after taking his camera down that she didn't know about. Apparently, she actually liked him or something, and in the movie, she goes to a series of guys all the time that just dump her. So, no shocking things there. But when he is running out into the parking lot to get back to his truck in the hotel parking lot, she runs after him completely naked, and apparently this was, as the apprentice found out,
Her idea.
that's right, the actress decided on this.
So the actress decided on her own. This was like her first nude scene in the film. She saw the scene, was acting out, and thought like, it'd be funnier and better in the scene if I go out there naked and spend the rest of my scenes naked.
So my first impression of that scene was, what the fuck is this creep, you know, recording her and then just walking out like that? And just, it pissed me off when I see her running, like walking out there naked with a gun. I'm like, you know what? I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, apparently she has a gun in her purse, a little tiny one. And yeah, I understand why she did it. I kind of also understand why the actress did it. I mean, maybe she was trying to go from horror to porn in an unusual reverse move in entertainment.
It's also, she had no shame in that point. It was like, at that point, you know, you're filled with rage. You know, you're not ashamed of your body. You just walk out there with a gun. It's like, whoever sees me, I don't give a fuck.
We might have to start using
I don't do that button. I'll just censor it.
Okay. Yeah. Oh. Leave that in. But you do have a point. It actually, now you say it was kind of a natural decision character-wise too. So I don't have anything against it.
I mean, like, running out there in the nude is less embarrassing than somebody like making an illegal porn about you.
Yeah. Obviously, it was pretty bad.
It's not like that will matter in about now.
Because we get back to our wonderful kill roster from this movie. The trucker, thank God, gets a pickaxe directly down into his skull when he opens his truck door to get into it. So trying to flee from Irene, that's the name of the character who is now naked.
Come on,
He already did that.
No, he came in Irene.
Fair enough. That's true. We did watch... I guess that was obvious enough.
It was a reverse of the scene from American Psycho. Instead of the guy looking at himself in the mirror, it was the woman.
That's true. She said, "Look how great I look," in the bold narcissistic statement. But after the pickaxe goes right through this guy's skull, we see the miner, who we don't know the identity of yet, step out of the car. Actually, this is the first time, to step it back a little bit, the first time we see, after the 10-year gap, the murderous miner return. Now, is it Harry Warden? Is it somebody else? We don't know yet. But that character steps out of the truck cab, and he follows Irene into the hotel, which is a love hotel, if I didn't make that clear before. Very much looks like one. It's one of those roadside truck stop hotels. And after she does that, we get her in the room, hiding under the bed, as she should. And a plot point that we didn't think really mattered comes back. The little person who runs the hotel's dog is missing, and probably in this room. So yes, the hotel manager is a diminutive individual
With undiminutive breasts.
intentionally. Maybe she was also trying to break into the porn rack. Who knows? But she follows the killer, who follows Irene. So we get a little almost like Benny Hill comedy sequence, or the start of one, where Irene is now hiding under the bed. The miner comes in, When the small person comes in, the miner goes and hides in the closet. She's looking for the dog. Eventually, she does go and open the closet, and the ridiculousness of the sequence ends, and she gets a pick upside to the jaw into the ceiling's lights. What a shocking kill.
Just leaves it there too.
Yeah, he does.
He seemingly has like unlimited pickaxes.
I mean, if you're preparing for a murder spree as a miner, hey, maybe he can't get charged because he's a miner. Well, anyway, he finds Irene hiding under the bed, and then to protect herself, she does the single most intelligent thing a woman in her position can do. Apprentice.
Takes the frame of the bed and then cages herself in.
Perfect thing to do when the killer coming after you has a long, thin, sharp killing instrument. So, of course, he swings at her a number of times and eventually gets her right in the gut.
Why would you do that?
I feel the Pac-Man death music coming on.
I'll play it right now.
So, getting back to the idea of the little bit of romance that this movie gets into, it's very clear that Dean Winchester, as we will only call him here, who plays Tom Hanniger,
Thank you.
is in love with Sarah Still. She is married to Axel. He visits her at the convenience store where she works. That is, Tom Hanniger visits her at the convenience store where she works. And seems like there's a little bit of spark there. The romance hasn't quite fully died, although it is pretty cardboard in this movie, so I'm not very shocked that the fact that it drags on and kind of makes the movie seem like it's weighted down with it much more than in the original, where the romance is more natural, as it could be for a slasher film. But yeah, it seems like for some reason at this point, Tom decides he wants to visit his father's mine before selling it. He visits, he goes down in the mine, he meets the miners who wish that they could kill him at this point because he's taken all their jobs away. He took their job. South Park reference, everybody. It's an oldie but a goodie. While he's down there with some of these miners, he apparently gets locked in a caged-in area. I'm not exactly sure what that is. That like a control center or what?
I think it's just like the power. I don't know. It's just a locked cage.
So yeah, he gets locked in there supposedly by Harry Warden, whoever the killer is. They kind of bend a piece of metal around. They get him stuck in there. Point is, he's stuck in there. So while he's stuck in there, one of the miners chooses to make a call to, I think it's one of the upper floors. And the next thing you know, there's a pickaxe going through his arm. He's seen now this miner coming at him, and just in time, he tries to, or successfully actually does, block the pick going at him. Give me a second, we're going to redo this. Okay. So once Dean Winchester is locked in this cage, he comes face to face, on the other side of the cage, of course, with the killer, who, again, we don't know the identity of at this point. And interestingly enough, and I think this was well done, you see him stare into the eyes of the mask that the killer is wearing, and then the two of them rise up and look at each other in unison. They kind of mirror each other at this point. And this was a little bit, clever. I liked it. It shows Dean Winchester looking into the eyes of this killer and sort of mimicking his actions. After that, the miner who he's down there with notices this killer just in time to successfully block a pickaxe from going into his head by blocking it with his arm. Pickaxe right through the arm. After a fight, we get another great death where the miner, who is not the killer, tries to go after the killer with a pickaxe of his own, and the killer kicks that pickaxe backwards, and the back end of it goes right into this miner's skull. So another great kill. It's where this movie shines. Very enjoyable. And that's pretty much the end of that scene.
Honestly, thought he was gonna kill him. Like the sheer brute of that guy.
Oh, you thought the miner was going to kill the miner was going to kill the other miner who was the killer?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, he's bigger and stronger. He was pissed off for some reason. I don't understand why.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not to spoil anything before it's time. And moving on. So next time we see Dean Winchester again, he's, or very shortly after this, he is talking to Sarah and Axel and Ben, who's one of his father's old colleagues who helped run the mine. And when they're talking, Dean, or Tom Hanniger, as his name in this movie is, insists that Harry Warden is doing the killing. Gotta be Harry Warden. Can't be anybody else. At this time, we learn that there was vigilante justice that took place, and after the slaughter from 10 years ago, several of the town's elders took it into their own hands to go and rid everyone of the threat, and they killed Harry Warden. So, of course, we have the obligatory search for the grave of the killer to see, is he still there?
No. The answer is always no.
He is not, in fact, there. And growing ever more the suspect, Tom Hanniger seems to not understand what's going on. I believe around this point, he's also been discovered in the background footage, dressed normally as himself, not to indicate that he's dressed as a miner killing people, but he is in the background footage of the shoot that happened at the hotel. That's Axel, the sheriff, finds that.
See when he finds out that Dean is there. So it is kind of funny because it just looks like he's just watching this, like.
It does, and his wife walks right in. His wife, Sarah, again, she's married to the sheriff, so it kind of looks like he's just watching two people bang, and then he's like, it's evidence. Tom is still probably in love with, or at least having very strong feelings for Sarah, and that she is married to Axel. We also find out that Axel has impregnated a younger woman.
Wow. Shock. Sheriff is a douchebag.
Never seen this plotline or character type before. Yeah, her name is Megan, this younger woman, and she is with his baby. This does not stop Axel from becoming disproportionately jealous of Sarah, even speaking about Tom's existence. He seems to be quite angry for someone who has not only been screwing, but impregnated another woman in his secret house that his dad left him near the mine. Also, just to make this part clear, at this point, Tom has, by the way, decided that he doesn't want to sell the mine, and we're all guessing it's because of Sarah. That's at least Axel's suspicion on it. But, he found something to cling to. But enough about that, and on to the slaughterfest that happens.
Yes.
So, now that we know that the killer's body is not where it's supposed to be, Tom is heavily suspected, at least by Axel, because Tom is in love with his wife, and, there's some evidence, but probably mostly that. With Harry Warden's body not in the ground, cold or warm, we see Ben, just to remind you, he's one of the older mine workers that used to work with Tom's father, who owned the mine, drunk in his chair at home with a shotgun that is apparently, for whatever ungodly reason, unloaded at this time.
Like, you think someone's coming to murder you. What do? You get blackout drunk and then just sit there with an unloaded weapon.
See, now, while he might have been playing it for safety because he's drunk, that kind of defeats the reason he got drunk being involved in the shotgun holding.
I guess he's that dedicated to gun safety that he's willing to ignore basic rule of, like, if someone's actively trying to murder you, you should probably, have it loaded.
So, of course, he drunkenly meanders to his front door, opens it, screams out into the darkness with a mighty slur. Harry Warden, you got me. Look at the shadows. Shooting the shadows, Harry. Something similar to that. Goes back inside his house, and then the killer does come from across the hallway to where he is, pin him down, slam the pickaxe into the floor, hold Ben down over the pickaxe, and ultimately kick his face right into it.
That's actually, I think, a recreation of one of the kills in the original movie.
Yep, they do that. The dryer death that we're going to talk about a little bit later is definitely 100% an homage.
They didn't really do the one with straight through the heart.
Yeah, they show you that he did them, but they don't show you him doing it, which is a little absurd. Like, you know that these people's chests have been cut open. You see some people in the hospital. You see Megan's chest has been cut open. You see hearts getting sent in boxes. But you don't actually ever see him just slam it into somebody's chest. Which is interesting. Now, with the town on high alert, the sheriff has deputies watching his house, and Sarah and Megan are together because, by the way, they work in the same convenience store. It looks like Axel goes shopping for more than groceries there. Well, we see the killer standing in one of the grocery aisles, and he goes ham trying to get to these two women.
Nice little pun they do. They're standing in front of the aisle called Fresh Meat.
Exactly. I do appreciate cheesy puns like that in the movie and when I make them. Even though you want to kill me when I do, and almost did before. Oh yeah,
You're fine.
He chases them down. He gets them to lock themselves in a room, and then drags Megan out the window as she is trying to escape through it. Megan is later found by Sarah and Axel, having had her chest cut open with the words written in blood above her, "Be mine forever." And that's like 1 or 2 or 3 seconds worth of VD-related things that we see throughout this movie.
He has a couple, like, hearts and, like, the chocolates.
Yeah, they were there in the background.
This movie is a Valentine's movie, like a Hallmark original is a Christmas movie. They take place around the same time, so it counts.
Yeah, this is a Valentine's Day movie. They're bringing us back to the sheriff's home, where him and Sarah's son is currently situated with their maid. And again, there are 2 sheriff's deputies standing there. Someone gets inside the house. I'm not even going to bother making any pretense. We all know what's happening. In an homage, I should say, to the original, the maid is put inside the dryer and steamed to death.
In seconds. Instant.
It's like, what's this?
Apparently, dryers are powered by the heat of the sun.
This was insane. It was insane. And then in a ridiculous hide-and-seek type of prank that you would see from a child, there is a lantern light from a helmet outside that one of the deputies, Burke, goes to check on. And what do you know? It's just the helmet sitting there on the edge of, or just over the edge of the deck. Ooh, no killer. What a shock. He's behind you.
And picking your face off.
In one of, actually, I think the best kill post 10-year break. The pickaxe goes up through his jaw, kind of like it does to the little woman earlier. Only instead of lifting him up into a ceiling, rips his jaw right off, and it would be much more amazing if we had 3D, because it does come right at the screen.
Yeah, the cheap old 2009 CGI probably would look a lot cooler if it was just coming right at me and not a flat image on the screen.
When the Slaughterfest has concluded, we now begin a new part of the film where Axel has found out that Tom was in a mental hospital for many years. So this begins the process of the two men who are already crossing swords, not that way, to blame each other for the deaths. Tom's in a mental hospital, he's crazy, I think it's Axel. So how does this all pan out? Well, Sarah gets taken by Tom in his car, saying that Axel is putting her in danger. While Sarah's in the car with Tom, Axel calls her, and that's essentially when he unleashes the detail about Tom being in the mental hospital. Sarah, not knowing who to trust or what's going on, grabs onto Tom, or Dean Winchester,
Thank you.
and makes him crash the car, where we get another very good 3D scene that is only in 2D of a tree branch bisecting the car window going right between the two of them. While running away, Sarah finds the secret love hut of Axel, and while there, sees a picture, an old picture, of her and Tom from 10 years ago, as well as a multitude of heart boxes. Seeing these in Axel's home bequeathed to him by his father, of course, she now believes that he is the killer.
Why would you think that? It's crazy. It's just a bunch of, a shrine and a bunch of boxes that people's hearts have been put. Actually, how many people's hearts have been put in boxes? One?
Yeah, we didn't really touch on that in this movie too much because they kind of brush over it a lot. We do get the one that's brought to Axel by one of his deputies, and we do see one just nonchalantly sitting in a box at the site of Harry Warden's hospital killings. But that's about it. We don't really see too much of it, and it's made such a big deal of in the 1981 version of the film. Yeah, I apologize for not touching on that, but there's a reason.
It made a big deal in this movie, even though it happened once.
Yeah, it's...
I think they just hope you watch the original first. They did have a few scenes in this movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of this movie, and that's why it's hard to blame this movie for a lot of what it does, is I think it is trying to like be its own movie while simultaneously paying proper respect to the old one, but doing it in that edgy 2009 kind of way. Now, Sarah does believe that Axel's the killer. She sees Axel, and tears bubbling up inside of her, just looks at him, can't trust him, and we end up with an on-foot chase scene that ends in one of the only scenes in this movie that even has any part of a mine on camera. And of course, it is going to be the final scene, or well,
The final sequence.
I don't even know if there's a penultimate scene, which we'll get to. This is the penultimate scene. There is a final scene that is more ridiculous that we will touch upon for a second. When they reach the mine, we get another sort of homage. I would say it's definitely an homage to the original, although much dumber, much dumber. Sarah is running through randomly, dropping jumpsuits or bibs. I'm sorry, is the proper...
No, those were coveralls. Dustin's little sib. Those were coveralls. You need to get your lingo right, sir. You're the supervisor.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I sit drinking and watching in my office.
Exactly. He's a supervisor.
Do you think I know anything about this?
I want to be so mean about it.
Well, yeah, we see these coveralls dropping from the ceiling one at a time, which would kind of be difficult to accomplish unless you're playing Liberace on the drop chords. And, that was something the apprentice noticed. He also noticed very humorously that this created problems for the killer himself.
Yeah, he's trying to swing the pickaxe around and just keeps getting caught on pants. Maybe you didn't need to drop all these clothing down like it was some sort of ghost pants.
Oh, man, so not well done compared to the original on that one. I just gotta say, just like the dryer scene. Well, it's about time the big reveal happens. And Axel and Tom are standing side by side. Sarah is now holding a gun. And they're both blaming each other right in front of her. Rambling on, trying to make their case until Tom eventually slips up and mentions Megan's death, which he was supposedly not there for and did not know about, especially did not know details about like what was written above her dead body.
At this point, I will say, the movie successfully got me because it made so blatantly obvious that Dean Winchester was a killer. I just assumed, oh, that's obviously a red herring. You're putting so much effort into making Dean look like he's the killer. It's not gonna be him because, like, you've made it so obvious. So, yeah,
I think the term you used was you gaslit yourself.
I just, like, gaslit myself. Like, no. Like, this is how movies work. You make somebody who looks like the killer be the killer. Let me repeat that.
1 second. Since we're breaking anyway.
Yeah, they make somebody who looks so obviously like the killer. And then, oh, shock, it wasn't him. It was this guy. Or it was actually Jason's mom the whole time. You know?
Hey, Jason's mom has got it going on. Shout out to Ice 9 Kills. What did you think about this part, Dark Journeyman? Because I think you had some interesting insights on this.
Well, first of all, you kind of don't want it to be Dean Winchester. You know, he's like the hero in his own series. But overall, they made it really confusing at some point. Like they were really good with that, like mixing details, tiny little details where you think somebody's gonna be the serial killer, and then it's like, no wait, but this happened. One point when earlier in the movie when he was stuck in the cage, it's like, how was that even possible? If it were him, you know, if he's having a psychotic breakdown, how would he be able to angle himself to where he twists that what do you call it?
It's just it's like a piece of metal he just uses to like
Just like a latch.
Yeah,
There's no way he could do that to himself inside the cage. But then also he was in the cage and he wasn't making a noise. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't screaming. He's like, hey, Luke.
that's interesting. That you're right. That's interesting.
But then again, you look back at the that metal piece or whatever it was, and it's like, no, it couldn't be him.
That was the only thing the movie did that would even like start to make you maybe second guess it in many ways. But they do explain it eventually, and you know, here's the ultimate spoiler for the film, but Tom Hanniger underwent extreme PTSD and apparently DID, or dissociative identity disorder, and now believes that he is Harry Warden. After watching Harry Warden slaughter when he woke up after 1 year in a coma, Tom was almost killed by him, Sarah was almost killed by him, many of his friends were killed by him. The girl who got the shovel in the face, and the guy whose eye was popped out by the pickaxe were friends of his, and so he could never get over it.
But then his psychotic episode had to be tied to like a reason to it, which would be going back for his ex-girlfriend, right?
You know, yeah.
They don't give a good reason why you just all of a sudden Dean comes back to town and is like, well, let's start killing.
As we're seeing that Tom and Harry Warden have become one and the same, Tom thinks he is Harry, we do get an answer to how he was locked inside the cage, which was by hammering that latch from inside of it around. Pretty much. He kind of had to do a little bit of reverse locksmithing, and he made it happen, but it was him. It's I'm gonna point this out because actually I'm just remembering this as we're here talking, but one of the people at the mine, one of the people in charge, said that they were able to confirm, or rather one of the characters said that they had one of the people who was in charge of the mine confirm to them the fact that, yes, Tom was in the cage the whole time. That clearly was not the case.
Well, they found him in the cage, so they just assumed. And you know what they say when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me.
And by God, were they made asses out of in that situation. That was ridiculous. Back to our plot. Sarah now knows who the killer is. And of course, at this point, Tom hallucinates seeing Harry Warden. Harry Warden's specter disappears right in front of him. And we end up with him running off and Sarah firing 5 out of her 6 bullets at him, missing very badly as he runs away. He then, in his insanity, takes a pickaxe and starts knocking out all the lights in the mine in an homage once again to the original. However, there's really no reason why he's doing it.
It's so that I can't see where I'm going. Oh, I'm chasing you.
He's in his own section of the mine at this point. There's no reason for that. But eventually, Sarah fires her one final bullet, hits Tom. It goes through him into a canister of condensed gases. That blows open, hits. Well, I guess this is why he had to break all the light bulbs. It hits a sparking, broken light bulb, and lo and behold, much like many years ago, there's an explosion in the mine.
Yeah. So like you don't get shot in the stomach and then exploded. Like, he is so dead. Like, so dead.
But we're working off of slasher movie logic, so of course, despite the fact that he got shot, got blown up, and has now had the mine cave in partially on him, he is of course still alive. And when found by a rescue team, we get the final kill of the movie, the pickaxe POV from the rescuer going through his mask. And then we get a setup for a sequel that nobody ever got to see. Tom takes this rescuer's mask and getup, escapes, goes out into the world because he's gonna be back killing at some point. No, he wasn't. That never happened. There was never a sequel to this movie, and that was pretty much just a pointless setup for a sequel.
It might not have been. It might have been like an open, like, oh, you got away with it, like, ending.
Maybe, although he's very clearly still crazy and murderous.
It's 2009. It was 100% for a sequel.
Yeah.
Every movie needs to be a franchise. This was the start of, like, you know, Iron Man.
Yeah, it's like the 80s set up like horror sequels, but we were still doing it then. And then, yes, other types of movies were starting to do like mega sequel numbers.
Honestly, no. In the 80s, they didn't set up a sequel. There was just like, oh, the guy that was like super murdered at the end of the last movie, somehow just like put himself back together.
Oh, yes. Well, so to watch my wording, there were many sequels. They didn't set them up intentionally. That was a little bit later. That was just because they made money. And then once one made money, it was time for another one. And if that one made money, it was time for another one. And if that one made money, the audience was brain dead.
Then they made another one.
Just to check. We wanted to see if you're definitely brain dead.
Wow, we put Jason in space and you guys are still watching it. Amazing. We'll make the next one PG-13. That will make sure you don't watch it.
Yeah, but that's about it for the 2009 remake of My Bloody Valentine. And sad to say, I really didn't get VD from this movie.
Yeah, there was a lack of VD in this movie. I don't even think maybe just a little bit of VD.
Yeah, there wasn't much VD to go around. However, this is much unlike the joyful topic we now get to move into, the 1981 Slashic original My Bloody Valentine of Canadian origin.
It is incredibly Canadian.
What are you talking about?
Oh, I was about to start saying, "Oh, Canada," but then I'd probably have been tariffed.
Yeah, he's a Dark Journeyman. Dark Journeyman, you had an interesting take on the main character's Canadian accent.
It came off kind of sassy.
What you talking about?
There's a part where like the other male characters catch his sassiness, and it's like, you know which part, right? They're at the bar and they're all drunk.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lot of the movie, but yeah.
It's like every other scene in the movie, they're getting drunk somewhere. Which again, it is incredibly Canadian.
Yeah. There's going to be plenty of spoilers here, too. This movie's much older, so we feel less guilty about that. Just, forewarning you. But yeah, this movie gives us so much that 2009 did not give us. There is an explosion of holiday imagery. There's great background lore. And it's got the kills that just make my pants feel so much tighter.
I didn't need to know that.
Yes, you did. Well, in our opening scene... Okay, yeah, I'm gonna call it an opening scene. It is the beginning of a softcore porno that never really comes back to be referenced in the entire rest of the movie or fits in a timeline anywhere.
Nope. It is referenced once. The sheriff, the coroner, determines that the heart belonged to a 30-year-old woman.
Ah. Okay, so it's not just a weird 80s fantasy sequence.
No, it is that. It just also has some semblance of plot.
That's a good point. Okay, so it is a little vague, but that makes sense as to where the first heart would come from. Yeah.
But we're jumping ahead right now.
Right. So this softcore porno scene starts with two minors. Not that kind. Don't get angry, internet. This is a porn involving two minors, but it's with an ER. So they're down in the shaft. Yes. And one of them...
No, she's on the shaft.
Yes, she's on the shaft. Not yet. One of the minors, ER, starts taking off her clothes. And it's a beautiful woman with a heart tattooed on her left breast. So we already get Valentine's Day imagery. Okay? Like, first scene, immediately Valentine's Day imagery, not weird newspapers flying at me trying to tell, 3 different stories in 2 minutes. But she's there, she's getting naked. The other miner slams his pickaxe into the fixture behind her. And as he grabs her and looks onto her, she gently grabs and begins stroking his hose. The one on his mask. I know what you thought. And this just leads to that whole cheesy softcore porn thing.
We'll have to say, they got backwards. The guy can take the mask off. She needs to keep the mask on. It's way hotter that way.
And now you're telling me things I didn't need to know about you.
Oh, come on. Actually, it'd be coming, but wow.
And, yeah, so we know where this is going. He's about to get deep inside her with his pickaxe, and he grabs her, he slams her onto the pickaxe that's on the wall, and you see it poking out. Not really poking out, actually. You see it poking from under her tattoo, which is like a nice touch, because it's like a broken heart, Valentine's Day imagery right from the start, weird, cheesy 80s references, and then we just begin in earnest. We can see that the whole town is preparing for a great festival of VD.
Yes, in the town of Valentine's Bluff, everyone is down for having a happy VD celebration.
Why is this so important? Well, why didn't we mention the name of the town in the 2009 movie? Because it's Harmony. It's got nothing to do with Valentine's Day. Here, the town is decked out from top to bottom. You got strands of Valentine's Day themed confetti going across streets. You have buildings, stores putting up hearts everywhere. You have a radio station named QPID, which was a great touch. Cupid radio station. This whole town is just deep into VD.
It's almost like the movie's called.
My Bloody Valentine. But as the town is preparing to have VD, we learn that the town has in fact not had VD in 20 years. They've been clean of VD, one might say.
Honestly, once you get VD as bad as they had it, you don't want to get it again.
Agreed, apprentice. But before we explain just how bad the VD was that they had in the past, we're going to just take a moment to realize the work they did with their characters in this film that they didn't quite do either in the 2009 version. Because, first of all, it starts with a group of miners. The town is about, the town is a mining town. And it's a miner that kills people. And it's about Valentine's Day. I want to see Valentine's Day and miners. We finally get that.
Yeah. The first time we're introduced to these miners, they're a bunch of men getting hot and wet in that shower. And clean off after a long day in the mines,
Yeah, with a bunch of men together, it would be difficult to have VD. Okay. So as we see the miners leaving the mine, one of them, the main character in this film, is TJ Hanniger, not to be confused with Tom Hanniger. His name is TJ. They call him Jesse. I guess that's the J part of his name.
Does he cook? No, he doesn't cook in this.
The TJ leaves. Axel, who is another miner in this one, is down there with him, and they get into some hijinks. It's the last guy to the bar has to buy all the beers, so they're running out with their pants still half off, getting in their cars, trying to drive down to the bar. These are real people that want to have real fun.
Yeah, this feels like they're human beings and not just walking like victims. I mean, they are, but
They certainly will be. So while they're at the bar later on, we learn precisely why the town has not had VD in 20 years. There's an actual reason here for everything that happened, so bear with me as we explain the backstory of this one, which makes so much sense of what was supposed to be going on in the 2009 version, but clearly was not.
no, it makes perfect sense. You have an unfortunate mining accident, then you go into a coma for a year, and then you wake up and you just immediately start murdering everybody you see.
Right.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. It wouldn't be, any less valuable of a watching experience to see a movie where, say, the person specifically went after the people responsible for a terrible thing that happened to him, or the terrible thing forced him to do terrible things to other people in the first place. Why would anyone want to watch a movie with a killer like that?
Say this, but it wasn't like the 2009 one was bad. I did enjoy it. It was fun.
Oh yeah, no, undoubtedly, to be clear, my opinion as well is it is a good horror movie. I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's just not the greatness that the original is.
Speaking of the greatness of the original,
we hear from the bartender, an old-timer with a gruff voice, warning them kids about what's happening. Because you have to do that in every 80s slasher movie at some point. He tells them that Harry Warden was trapped in the mine, not just, because of a mistake or something like that, but because the supervisors who were on duty that night, which happened to be Valentine's Day, left not checking the gas levels in the mine. And so They went to go to the town's VD celebration. They were off getting VD, and the miners were all stuck with each other in the mine, and an explosion happens. Harry's trapped there. When Harry is found, everyone else is dead, and he's eating one of their arms. We kind of see that it's been 6 weeks, which might have forced Harry into doing some gruesome things for the sake of survival. By the time they're able to get them out, it's been 6 weeks. So he has an actual reason here to A, be crazy, B, have killed people.
C, be crazy.
And they take him off to a mental hospital. He is there for a year.
Mental hospital in the 80s.
Which could drive you significantly more insane, yes. Harry comes back to town after a year. And instead of mindlessly slaughtering everyone in sight, including the people at the hospital where he is, he goes after who? The 2 supervisors. He kills them, and we see him take the pickaxe in this flashback sequence we're seeing, and shoving it into the chest or slamming it into the chests of these supervisors and taking their hearts out. He's doing it because he's remembering Valentine's Day as the reason that they abandoned and were neglectful of all their men. And what does Harry Warden do with his supervisors' hearts after he cuts them out? Puts them in candy boxes and sends them to the dance, the party that's going on for Valentine's Day, with a warning to never, ever have VD again.
That was it. No more VD allowed.
If you look at it, a certain way, he was really looking out for them.
He was making the town clean.
Horror theory side note, for what little of it there is, that is a basic slasher horror movie theory here. It is kind of representative of the upper class kind of crushing down on the ability of the lower classes to survive. You see the supervisors dressed in suits, laughing at the party while the men are trapped. And it is kind of symbolic of just, the upper class ignoring a plight and leaving the lower classes kind of trapped in their place, which you get a little bit of classist horror, you get a little bit of, in a sense, it's almost like wasteland type of horror, but I'm not going to get into how it connects right now, but it kind of does. It is important for us just for a moment to touch on some of the plot here that's a little less interesting or horror involved, but there is a girl named Sarah. Sarah was in love with TJ. They were both deeply in love with each other. TJ left for a while to make it big. Somehow, we're never quite clear how. It sounds like he might have tried to make it in Hollywood. But we don't ever get an exact rundown of how that happened. We just know that he failed, and he came back, and he ended up working for his dad again in the mine. So here's, a little bit of your classic slasher horror theory where, you'd have male inadequacy present, at least in some way, and him trying to prove, his masculinity. And now Sarah, because he left her, is with Axel, who, to mention it again, is a fellow miner in the mines with TJ in this version of the film. And that sets up a love triangle that lasts throughout the movie. And just as a side note, I do know that we're using the word slamming a lot. That is kind of what's happening. The pickaxe is getting just slammed into people's chests, faces, skulls, whatever. It's pretty great.
Has nothing to do with VD.
Yes, but getting back to VD, after 20 years of not having it, the town decides that they want to have the greatest VD that they ever had, and they want to have it together.
That joke is going to get old at some point, but it's not right now.
Yes, and it won't be, at least until the end of this episode when you're forced to listen to all of it. Well, remember that dryer scene that we mentioned earlier? We're gonna see it again. Or for the first time, actually. They saw it again, because remember, I made them watch it in reverse order. Mabel is helping the mayor of the town, who is Tom's dad and also the owner of the mine, set up the union hall for their grand celebration. And later on, she is doing some washing at the laundromat,
preparing for VD.
Yes, perfect. She's cleaning up, getting ready for some fresh VD. I can't even speak straight right now.
She hasn't had VD in 20 years. She wants some VD.
She is kind of old. It's difficult for her to have some at this point.
That is not true. Look at any retirement home. They love VD at retirement homes.
That is true. All the old folks celebrate together. I guess, if she was lucky enough to get into one of those homes.
Well, she definitely ain't now.
Because she's found and shoved into a dryer. Yeah.
After she has her heart ripped out.
Yes. Her heart is ripped out. She is in the dryer. She's found there. But nice touch, by the way, because once again, getting back to the actual VD theme of it all the hearts have been turned upside down. The killer, after killing her, has taken the time to show his teen angst against Valentine's Day, I guess, and turn all the hearts upside down. Also a nice touch, when her body is found, there's a Valentine's Day card in it with a poem on it.
Man, like this killer. Wow, so I'm just imagining he's just sitting down after killing killing Mabel, just sitting there like, yeah, that's gonna work. There's been 2, there'll be more. I hate Valentine's Day. I hate you, Dad. Yeah, perfect. Let me just shove it in this corpse right here and throw it in the dryer. I said cycle forever. Apparently it can do that.
Oh, yes. To get back to your point, Apprentice, at least she was there for like a day. While we're steaming.
Oh, yeah. Like, she was in the dryer for like all night. So at least that makes sense. Unlike getting tossed in the dryer for 10 seconds and being dead.
And not only dead, but shriveled to the point where your teeth are bare and you have no eyes.
I mean, like, I guess you'd be dead, like, you had to be contorted into that thing, but, like, you wouldn't be toasted.
And certainly not that quickly. Again, as you astutely pointed out. I do remember Dark Journeyman was enjoying the poem on the card particularly.
Yeah, that was nice. It came from the heart,
Romantic. He's an old romantic. So
I deserve that.
Yes, you did. That's why I paused my speech so that we could watch that happen. And now, with Mabel dead, the mayor and the sheriff decide that they're gonna have to stop the VD once again. And the first step they take is they're gonna shut down the Union Hall where the party is taking place and lock all the kids out so that the kids won't have VD.
To be fair, they were warned how dangerous VD could be.
They weren't.
In that town.
By their elders who experienced it before them.
Yeah, they've just never been the same after that 1 year of VD.
That really bad bout of VD.
Yeah, people died because of that.
It was bloody VD. It was messy VD. It was VD where a lot of people got penetrated. With the Union Hall being shut down and the town terrified to have VD, the kids decide to have their own VD in secret.
Like you do?
Like
never learn.
But before the kids can have their secret VD, the bartender too tries to save them.
Because he hates VD just probably the most of anyone in the town. Because of how traumatized he was with that 1 year's VD.
Yeah, Harry Warden, being generous with his advice, tried to tell them, and they just wouldn't listen. And now they're about to make that big mistake by all having VD together. So, of course, he tries to set up an ill-advised prank against the kids who are trying to set up their own party, which he knows about because he's a bartender, and of course it's talked about at the bar.
Literally right in front of her. He tries so hard to get them to stop the VD, but they won't. They need it. They want it.
But I do think the kill is very creative, and that's something else I'll say is like the kills themselves, the use of the pickaxe is a bit better in 2009's version, but the creativity surrounding the kills, like the circumstances around them, how they happen, is just so much better in this one. And this is a prime example of it. He tries to stop the kids by setting up almost like a scarecrow of Harry Warden with the gas mask and the coveralls and of course a pickaxe, where he has the pickaxe in the glove of the suit, and there's a rope attached to the door to the rec center of the mine. And when you open the door, the rope goes up and the pickaxe pops out. He's endlessly laughing at this prank.
This is the funniest thing this old man has ever done in his life.
Probably the only thing he's ever done in his life that didn't involve wagging his finger or telling the youth why they're wrong.
The youth need to know they cannot celebrate VD. It is not something to be celebrated. It is an issue.
Well, after he laughs at it about, 7 or 18,000 times and eventually closes the door and starts walking away, he goes back for, I can't quite tell if it's just for another laugh or if he noticed something off, because both are possible the way that it's shot in the movie. But naturally, when he reopens the door,
Pick straight to the eye.
bingo! This killer, who might or might not be Harry Warden, because that's a legitimate question here, shoves a pick up through his jaw, out his eye, and then drags him that way across the grass or across the asphalt, whatever it is. I can't really see.
Wait, so
The point is he gets dragged.
he wasn't participating in the VD then.
That is correct. The old man was not participating in the VD. He was just involved in the drag show.
Okay, I'm confused. Why does Harry want to stop the one man that's dedicated to stopping VD?
Yeah, that's a good catch. That is a very good catch, apprentice. I'm getting prouder of you by the day. You've got some catching up to do. Why does Harry Warden, if it is Harry Warden, want to stop the stopping of VD? Maybe he just wants to go on a killing spree. But this killer, as we know, or at least, from the backstory, actually just wanted it to stop because of all the damage done to him and others in his mind as a result of the holiday. So it doesn't make sense here. So in order for the kids to get some VD without the approval of the town elders, they go to the mine and they go into the little rec center that the mine has, and they have it at night on Valentine's Day. And now is when all the real hijinks get to start. Now, I do want to take a moment to pause and say that during this entire time, we get the idea that Harry Warden is very much not dead. He's actually just been put back in the mental hospital, and no one can find any record of him.
Yeah, they go to they call up this mental hospital that he was at. They have no records. It's the 80s. I believe it. I believe that you just, like, I don't know, like, maybe he's here, maybe he's somewhere else, we don't know.
Yes, and with my own experience working with bureaucracy and administrations, it's just quite reasonable and nobody knows what the hell they're doing. That's real life me talking. They have no idea.
Fantastic. I feel so much better knowing that government has no idea what they're doing. They're just kind of winging it.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, they don't make clear as a government hospital or just its own. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think it's like a state prison mental institute.
It would make sense, but especially since Canada. But yes, the administrators don't know. They said he's either been released, transferred, or maybe died, but there's no record of him. The important thing is there's very real possibility in this movie that Harry Warden has come back to town. In fact, early on, when looking at one of the cutout hearts, the coroner, the county coroner, or whatever he'd be called up in Canada appropriately, says, "Yep, this heart's enough evidence for me. Harry Warden's back." Thank God he's not a cop, but yeah, Harry Warden could very well still, in fact, be the killer in this film. So that's left out there as a possibility, leaving more mystery and less self-gaslighting necessary to not know who the killer is.
If you watch movies backwards, it's pretty obvious who's going to be the killer.
Actually, if you watch the movie forward, you still might know just the other way around. It really is the thing with these movies, I think, that whatever one you watch first, you'll figure out the other one.
Yeah, it's usually almost always the opposite, because it's just like, oh, we gotta like mess with expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so smart.
Being an edgelord like you do.
Huff your own farts, why don't you?
That's right, Shadow Secretary. So we're at the party. We get one death that actually takes place right there. And I remember you, Apprentice, were referencing Sleepaway Camp, which did come later. And maybe this is where they got it from. I don't know.
I see his head get dunked in the pot of boiling water. It's like, oh, they stole that kill from Sleepaway Camp.
Like,
No.
no, actually, a lot of modern slashers came after. Not many of them came before this. Halloween being obviously the one very, very big exception to that. You know, came before this film, but most of these slasher films came after it. So actually, a lot of the tropes were perhaps built upon this film as well as Halloween.
Well, yeah, it's this Halloween, Friday the 13th, from Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. And so, one of the
Sleepaway Camp was so good they used that for a normal movie. A normie movie.
So yeah, at this party, one of the miners has his face shoved into a pot full of boiling wieners.
You got a face full of wind. Oh, wow.
Oh my, as George Takei would say. Maybe another friend of ours who we actually know. Here speaks. This person, this miner who was killed, is then shoved into the fridge we later see when the fridge is opened by another miner looking to grab something out of it, who, in classic fashion, does not notice the dead body inside of the freezer.
Why would you look down in the freezer while you're opening the door? I mean, he was distracted, admittedly.
Oh, after a man's face is boiled in wiener, we do get one more kill before the final sequence, as you would put it, Apprentice, begins. And that is a couple sneaking off to, no surprise here in a slasher movie, Screw in the Mine.
It was actually the locker room.
Oh, yes. Yes, the locker room.
That's important because the remake.
Yeah. Yep, my bad. It is the locker room, because when the man leaves to get beer, because it's very important that the two of them drink right now, immediately before having sex when they've been drunk the entire time.
He just wants to make sure it doesn't work.
You can't get VD with ET. But as she's sitting there looking very content with herself for having demanded another beer of this man that she's with.
Probably because of how much that room stinks. Like, it's surrounded by, like, all these unwashed, like, miners' clothing. Like, why is that where you pick to have sex?
Yeah, I guess they couldn't find a better spot on short notice that wasn't crawling with other people, but, you had your cars out back. They all had their cars out back at the time.
It's like, that's where I would pick.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it got her off. I don't know. I certainly hope not, but
It's for it's for the killer.
yes, Dark. Journeyman.
Yep.
Yeah, she's there, and the clothes start falling. And unlike the scene in the 2009 version of the movie, the clothes fall in groups, not one at a time, which would be more realistic. And also, they don't all fall in quick succession. So she's kind of scared. They're falling. She's trying to find her way out. And as she finds her way out of one group of clothing, the next group falls until eventually one group falls. And instead of one of the hooks having a pair of coveralls on it, they have the body of the bartender who was killed earlier when setting up his prank. That was the most hilarious thing in the world to him. And of course, the killer's hiding.
Was it worth it, bartender man?
Was it worth it just to teach them kids a lesson again? But after seeing him, of course, the next thing we see is the killer coming for her. He grabs her, lifts her up, and impales her on one of the sprayers that's used for the showering on site. It's basically an open-ended pipe. It sprays water. He impales her there, and when she's found, she has her mouth open and the water is spraying out of her mouth, which is kind of cool.
It's like a fountain.
In the midst of the party, while these killings are going on, a group of miners and their girlfriends just decide, you know, we have a duty to increase the kill roster of this film, and they get on the minecart train and decide to take it down into the mines. Because why not? We're in a horror movie. Let's just go down into the dark mine by ourselves with no one else there and no safety protocols currently active. They leave. They promise TJ, who says no women in the mine, that it's just going to be for a quick ride down and out, which naturally does not happen.
At that point, TJ tells everyone in the party, okay, if you're not a protagonist, if you're not going to die in this movie, you need to be out. Everyone who's not dying, out, now.
Yeah, dying, or as you pointed out, important or integral to the plot in some way. It's like, all right, you're free extras, you got your paycheck, get out. So we see the doomed minecart train going down. So of course, once they're down in the mine, they decide that they want to take a tour of specifically the abandoned section that was shut down after the Harry Warden killings, as you do in a horror movie. And the women are shocked that there are rats in the mine, by the way. Heavens to Betsy.
There's also Vox down there, you know?
No.
I think there might even be coal.
Should certainly hope so, or this town is going to be bankrupt pretty soon. But yeah, as they're down in the mine, they're exploring, they're looking around. One of the couples leaves to go have sex down in the mine for some reason, because again, it's 80s horror. And yeah, the other couples are just exploring. After the party is broken up, TJ and Axel both realize that the woman they love is down in the mines and there's a killer on the loose. So they rush in to go save her. Of course, Axel blames TJ for letting Sarah go down there. That he's going to blame him. It's all his fault if something happens to her. And the love triangle that starts close to the beginning of the film begins to reach its end point. So as they're exploring, there are also pranks being pulled. Of course, Harold is one of the miners whose hijinks are very well focused on throughout the movie. He actually pretends at one point to be a dead body falling from the ceiling on top of one of the other people. And when asked what he's doing, he says, "I had a hangover."
Ha-ha!
Don't have a 2 bits in the haircut button on this.
But what are we all here for? More killings. So naturally, being down there and having sex, one of the first things that happens is the couple getting murdered, and they are screwed.
Actually, it was an auger.
Yes. It did go right through them while they were having sex. I thought it was kind of cool that they just show the two of them like right on top of each other and just right down through.
Hold up. Pause.
Mm-hmm.
Pause.
Go. So, Axel and TJ are now also down in the mine, of course, because they've gone in to save Sarah. They do split up. They take different parts of the mine, TJ specifically taking the abandoned section to look through, which is, of course, where all his friends and their girlfriends are.
And Axel goes another way because it's always smart to split up when there is a killer about.
Of course. So TJ, now in the abandoned section of the mine, finds Hollis, who's a larger man that is a fellow miner. And in the midst of trying to find the people who are missing and bring them up with Sarah and everybody else, they start to discover what's been happening. Hollis walks into a room where the couple who left to go have sex are, and, as typical, it looks like they've been screwed.
It was actually an auger.
Yes, technically, it is an auger that went right through both of them as they were lying on top of each other. Quite nice, very tasteful. And when Hollis finds them, the killer is still in the room and hits him in the skull with a nail gun.
Attaching a light to his face. And he will then drag out to the next scene.
Because as you astutely picked up on yet again during the film, he had to live just long enough to scare some other characters.
Of course.
So he rounds a corner where his girlfriend and Sarah are, and abruptly dies, leaving his girlfriend in such distraught tears that she cannot bring herself to move from the side of his death, knowing that her own life is in danger.
Like he's right there. He has a pickaxe and is walking towards you. Why is this more important to cry about him right now?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the idea that, like, kind of in those days of a small mining town, I guess it's like, you know, the person you're with at that point in your life is your whole future. So maybe it's like she thinks this is death for her in a sense. I thought maybe there was something there to that. But it drags on. Like, it takes forever. She has to be slapped by Sarah before she's willing to leave.
It's just the hysterical woman stereotype brought up to 11.
As they are trying to escape, they notice that the system that works the elevator has been destroyed, so they cannot get up by elevator, so they try to get up by ladder. And as they are climbing on the ladder, who but Harold falls down, having been hung, and from that hanging is then decapitated. Little confusingly done, that death, in my opinion, because you kind of just see Harold fall on a rope and then blood splat across one of the characters' faces, and then the body thuds on the floor and the head is still, I think, attached to the rope.
I guess. Because the head doesn't like fall down.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It is, I assume it's on the rope. And it's very blurry.
Wow.
It's kind of blurry when you see him fall down, so you don't even know, like, did he drop with his neck partially cut, or as you pointed out, like would happen in real hangings, did he just get his head detached when he dropped? It's like, you know, you can talk about that for a second if you want, because that was interesting.
Yeah. In when they used to do hangings, he had to like cut the rope to a specific length, because if they fall was too long, it would cause a decapitation instead of just breaking the neck. Or if the person was too fat, they would just get decapitated because of that as well.
Yeah, so that was just super interesting. I didn't know that about, like, I'm super knowledgeable about horror movies, but like real life, a lot of times, you know, crimes or executions, like I'm not familiar with. And I was like, that's interesting. He could have just been decapitated by the fall. After they come down from the ladder, they look for their next option for getting out of the mine, which is finding their way back to that minecart train. Axel lets them know that there is a way back to that minecart train through a flooded section of the mine.
Because like, that's the most obvious shortcut you'd want to take.
Makes sense. And of course, we eventually hear a splash. And TJ says, oh no, it must be Axel, who's trying to find his way through that flooded section ahead of us.
It was behind them.
Behind them?
He's behind them.
Yes, he was.
Oh, is he behind them? And they didn't see the water.
No, they heard him like buried it. That's why. Like he just threw his hard hat in there or something.
Oh, no, I know that part. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, he's behind them. He is watching out.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, my bad. He was behind them. TJ works his way over to where they heard the splash coming from, and you see a broken wooden barrier and a miner's helmet with a headlamp in water that is now bubbling. And a dark journeyman thought that it looked like a heart.
Yeah, there's so much VD there. It's like you start seeing everywhere, you know?
Start worrying about it. Start thinking it's everywhere, you know?
I'm seeing hearts in the bubbling of the water. Assuming now that Axel has perished trying to make his way through the flooded section, they now move back in a different direction, and TJ, for some reason, tells the two women, being Hollis's girlfriend and Sarah, to go down a different shaft than him, or a different path than him.
I thought there would have been a reason or some setup. There's a couple things in this movie that I thought they were setting up. Like, they keep talking about how, like, explosions in the mines.
Yes.
Spoilers in the already completely spoiled section. That doesn't happen.
Not at all in this one. No, not except for in the flashback.
So they keep doing that where I feel like they're setting something up, but they must not have the budget for it or something.
I'm glad that you see this too, because me and the Dark Journeyman were watching it, and I actually was questioning, like, wait a minute, did they split paths for no reason? Like, apparently we all noticed the same thing. TJ's here and two women are here.
Well, they need to break up because Harry jumps out of a corner and kills not Sarah.
Yes, Hollis's girlfriend. I know a lot of these people are kind of interchangeable and forgettable. But yes, supposedly Harry, or whoever this killer is, swings an axe out from behind a corner and hits Hollis's girlfriend in the stomach, killing her. And now she can join her boyfriend, with whom she probably couldn't live without. Or without whom she could not have lived. There you go. So TJ then regroups with Sarah, being the only two people supposedly left alive in the mine. And they get to the minecart train. They start to take it out of the mine, and who appears but the killer behind them, jumping on to the back minecar on this train. And I thought this was really cool, this sequence, by the way. The killer gets on and just walks over the moving minecarts up to them. At one point, Sarah, who is removed from the minecart train, or did she get on? Did she get?
She was on.
She was. Oh yeah, so she does get removed from the minecart train. She hands TJ a shovel, and the fight ensues between TJ and the killer.
They get knocked off the train, and they start fighting the greatest battle of all time: shovel versus pickaxe.
It was pretty good. They eventually find themselves in another section of the mine, which is basically where the methane explosion had happened all those years ago. And as the two are fighting, they're gradually destroying the space around them, causing that portion of the mine to become more and more unstable. Sarah, who is kick-ass, by the way, is helping TJ. She throws a rock at the killer. Like, she's got his back this whole time. You couldn't ask for a better girlfriend than Sarah. As we get to the end of the fight, the mask is removed and the identity of the killer is revealed. And this time, it is in fact Axel. In one of the few sloppy parts, I think, of the original film that we're now talking about, the flashback to why he's the killer is very, very quick and kind of just thrown at you.
It's just Dexter.
Yeah, he's Dexter. Here's him. Turns out one of the supervisors that Harry Warden killed is Axel's dad. And he was there cowering under the bed after getting hit with his father's blood from the pickaxe hitting him in the chest. And that's it. That's why he's doing all these killings. Apparently, this mental illness was dormant for quite a while.
Why didn't you just, like, kill serial killers and collect blood samples. That was really cool.
No, he stayed in the mines. And apparently
They yearn for the mines.
it just, he just starts killing again, after TJ gets back. I don't know, maybe there's something there.
It was because they all decided to have VD, and he has a very traumatic experience with VD.
He got a bad case of VD as a child. It doesn't usually happen, that except in very bad circumstances.
That's exactly why it's so traumatic. You don't have VD that bad. You don't have VD as a child. Like, this is not acceptable.
The fight is ended. The section of the mine they're in is now beginning to collapse. Sarah and TJ escape, leaving Axel behind as the rescue crews come in, and we learn from the sheriff that he's known for actually quite a while from a phone call he received that Harry Warden's been dead for 5 years.
Well, it wasn't that long. He found out, like, a couple hours before we find out.
Yeah, I mean time in the movie, like specifically though. You are.
No, the city called him that night to tell him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm talking purely in terms of like movie time, like runtime. In terms of runtime, he actually knew for a bit. In fact, he's in the town being told by people who ran away from the party that Harry Warden is killing again, and he doesn't say anything.
Well, no. The sheriff found out, like that night.
Yeah, that night before that instance, though.
Yeah.
He finds out before he runs into the kids. I'm just saying the movie kind of kept it hidden for a bit. The movie itself. Time-wise, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Now that everyone knows that it was Axel, we get a view of him after just enough rubble was removed to see him with his arm having been ripped off in the collapsed section of the mine. He's now completely batshit.
I'm gonna kill everyone in this goddamn town.
Like, everybody, it's me and Harry Warden. It kind of sounds like he thinks like they're partners at this point, which I guess maybe is where the idea for the 2009 version came from. And he sings this super creepy song that I just love. He starts the song with asking, or actually comes technically, I think, right before the song, but he still says it in a sing-songy voice. Says, "Sarah, will you be my Bloody Valentine?" You just hear that line echoing out of a hole.
Roll credits.
He does have a couple of lines just before that. He's "Daddy gone away, Harry Warden made you pay." And then it hits the credits, and this movie has its own theme song. Which I love that touch, and I love that there's like a folk song dedicated to this.
Of course there's gonna be. This is the 80s. We got a song for everything right now. Every movie gets a song. You get a song. You get a song. You get a song. Everyone gets a song.
But such a masterpiece. It really was. And that's why, to wrap up this episode of our podcast, we're going to give you, our viewers, our cultists, a list of horror heartbreakers. So we are going to list now our horror heartbreakers, every way in which 2009 My Bloody Valentine didn't quite live up to the 1981 original Slashic, as they call them now. Heartbreaker number 1. Harry Warden could actually still be alive. There's a legitimate reason to believe that the killer from so long ago is in fact here with us, giving us more of a mystery to this horror and making the film more immersive. Heartbreaker number 2, and I think this is actually one of the worst, it's at least second worst, if not the worst problem, I think, with the 2009 edition versus the 1981, is the killer in the 1981 version had a good backstory and very good reason to do what he did. We kind of talked about this earlier, but Harry Warden was abandoned by negligent supervisors on Valentine's Day that let him and all the other men he was with get trapped down in the mine. They left for a party, and he didn't come back and murder rampantly. He killed them, the guilty party. it makes so much more sense. That is a slasher background lore that I can get behind. So, Heartbreaker number 3. And this one actually competes with the last one for which sin I think is the most egregious out of all of these.
Are we allowed to say that word?
Yes, we're allowed to use it. I used it as a regular word in the middle of a sentence. It is perfectly acceptable here.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned. When did that car pop up?
What the hell is that?
It's right there.
Oh, damn.
Okay, I gotta check in with legal if this is okay. I think I've been talking to them. I think it's fine, but
Just making sure.
All right. We'll have to keep going and just kill anybody who gets in our way. I mean, just make sure that we follow the law. So, Heartbreaker number 3, the Valentine's Day theme. You kind of robbed me of my VD in 2009. I got all the VD I could ever want in 1881.
A lot of people had plenty of VD in 81.
The actual Valentine's Day theme is just permeating the 1981 movie. It's everywhere. It's in the killer's reasoning. It's in the ambiance. It's in the set itself. It's in the events happening around the town. It's even, more present in the love triangle. The love triangle is more present in this one.
It's even in the town's name.
Yes! The radio station, the town's name itself. Harmony. Why did you call it Harmony? You didn't have to change the name 2009. God. Heartbreaker number 4. This is an iffy heartbreaker. It's not really a heartbreaker. What I would say is the kills in the original are more creative in how they happen. I kind of wish we got more of that and little less absurdity. But the over-the-top violence and the creative use of the pick itself, again, is very good and even better in the remake. However, you could have done, like I said, a little bit better job on setting up the kills. Maybe you don't drop... Well, this wasn't even a kill in that one, but you don't drop one set of clothes at a time very rapidly, and you use it for an actual kill, because it was quite clever and well used in the original. And finally, Heartbreaker number 5, like everything in that era, in 2009-ish, early 2000s in general, this movie, the remake, had to be dark and brooding, and I felt like I was watching Christian Bale play The Dark Knight. We didn't really need that.
you're not allowed to have colors in the year 2009. Not allowed. We're all too depressed from what happened last year.
Yeah, 2008 depression, just overly fucking brooding. I'm like, dude, this movie is a drama queen. Like, I'm the Batman. No, we don't need that here. It does have, a rich guy with a dead dad, to be fair. And also be fair, he's functioning more like Two-Face by the end of the movie. But we didn't really need it. I'm going to say it again. We didn't need it to be so over-the-top dark and depressing. It kind of almost reminded me of the borderline horror version of A Christmas Carol that FX made.
I think we have next year's movie.
That's going to be the holiday episode, folks. Unless you want something else, maybe we'll do it, but I think you'll like our take on that. That wraps up this episode of the In Darkened podcast. This has been your host, Shadow Foreman, and...
I have been The Apprentice.
And the Dark Journeyman.
And I'm getting overtime.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. No, you're not, Shadow Secretary. Not at all. If you like this episode, in addition to liking and subscribing, please do leave a comment down below. We'd love to know your thoughts. Do you like the remake or the original better? Is there something, maybe one specific aspect of one film or the other that you thought was really well done? We're here to start a community discussing all the things that are great about horror, so please join us in the comments section below, and we will hear your creepy chatter. For now, we'll be waiting in the mines for you.